Right, hi guys, Luton here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the difficulty settings and general principles we have with the ZEUS missions. So I often have discussions with the guys on my missions. You see this when we have the debriefs at the end of live stream missions and so on. And following some good feedback sessions that I had today, I thought I would make a short video to just discuss some of the issues that were raised, not in extreme detail, but just to give you kind of an overview of some of the things that I've been thinking about with the consideration of some of the guys that play my missions. And this is the thing with ZEUS, it's always been this kind of ongoing process where we learn from one another, we learn from the experiences, we build on this and continue to make it a better thing. That's what I've always done with ZEUS, and that's what we continue to try and improve upon, to learn, to innovate, come up with new concepts, principles and ideas for working the missions out to make them more enjoyable for everybody and also fun for us to watch. One of the factors when it comes to doing the missions is the length of time that the missions take. We did the mission the other day, it took like 5 hours, and that was actually too long. It was too long for the guys playing the mission, because it's not just about me and what I'm doing, it's about the people that are actually participating in those missions. And that's a really long time to kind of sit and play through, and I forget this because I'm a pretty hardcore in terms of the time I put into my games. I like to sit and have extended gameplay sessions, but it's not for everyone. Some people like to play only a few hours, so we've come up with some ideas there. But I'm going to talk firstly one thing that we were talking about doing for the missions. So basically, when people are coming to the missions, now obviously to a large degree I dictate what missions we're going to do and so on and so on, but it's important to consider that when people are playing, they want kind of they may want a different experience when they come to the missions. Some people may want a very hard, full-on experience. Some people may want an easier experience. And, we did something a little while back, you might remember, where we were doing these single life missions, and they were really good, and we want to do some more of those. But with the single life missions, I would often give the guys the opportunity to decide, do they want to do that at night time or do they want to do that in the daytime? Because it's a single life mission, and if it was a nighttime mission, I would maybe place less enemy units, but of course they got visibility issues because it's nighttime, makes it a bit more tricky in some respects. Or they could do it in the daytime and there'd be more units, but they get better visibility. So trade-off, and give them a little bit of choice, because it's about giving those players something to work with, right? So one idea that came up this evening as well was to give the guys the choice at the beginning of the evening. Do they want to do an easy, medium or difficult mission? And that way, sometimes it's understandable as well, like when you're in game and something happens, whether it's artillery, whether it's enemy armor, whether it's enemy snipers, different things. It can be frustrating as a player if you feel like you get some kind of fire thrown at you that maybe you didn't really anticipate was going to be part of that mission. Now, of course, there's risk and unknown elements always to any mission, and that's something that people need to be aware of. But at the same time, it can be helpful to give people a bit of a heads up as to what kind of experience they may be facing for that evening. It just prevents people from having that kind of frustration where they felt like they were making really good headway into a mission, and then suddenly, bang, it just kind of gets knocked out of them. And, I've had this myself, where you're having like a really good night, everything's going really well, and I've had this on the ZEUS and on the ground. You've had a good night, everything's going really well, you feel like you're doing all the right things, making progress, you've moved through the map, blah, blah, blah. Something happens, some event, something happens, and it knocks all of the morale out of you, and you just think, like, sorry for swearing, but you just think, fuck this, man, I've had enough, I'm off, I'm done. And, these things happen. So I think trying to maintain the people that are playing the missions' morale is important, and, we can make choices to kind of facilitate that better, to ensure that the guys are actually having a good, strong mission, even if it means they're facing heavy engagements from enemy. So yeah, the difficulty aspect is something that we would do. So we would say to the guys, do you want to do easy, medium, difficult? If it's an easier mission, there's going to be some firefights, but there may be logistical elements to do there, so that they get a bit of reprieve in between, and it's not just endless war like back to back, because again, it can be enjoyable for us to watch, but sometimes that can be like draining and demoralizing when it's just back to back, right? But again, I always try to kind of give a good break and variation there. Medium difficulty mission, that would be your standard fare kind of base assault, clear it out, clear out of town, maybe there's some IEDs, maybe there's some some kind of fire support in one respect, whether it's armor or mortar or artillery or whatever. There's going to be something else going on there as well, perhaps. And then a difficult mission, we're talking major artillery, air support, reinforcements, ground attack, all that kind of stuff going on. So a really challenging, full-on mission. And again, those are the things that we can work with. So that was the one aspect. Now, another aspect of the missions that we were talking about doing was creating kind of FOBs throughout. Okay, so what we would do is I would place down, I'm going to design myself a base for this, but just for argument's sake, let's just grab anything right here. Let's just get a military field. Excuse me with my scroll wheel. Let's get a military, not Pacific. I had it. Field HQ small, blue 4. Okay, so let's just take this for now. So let's say like the guys have got to go through, clear this town. Now maybe right here. There we go. So maybe right here, look, that's our little compound, that's our little blue 4 FOB. Okay, don't really like that little building in the mix there. In fact, I could probably just get rid of that. But yeah, for argument's sake, for the purposes of talking about this, maybe that's our little FOB there. So remove objects from ZEUS. There we go. So what would happen is that there would be enemy through the town, and our squad here would move up through the town, and they'd make their way through, etc., etc. Here they come. They get to this point here, so on and so on, and I could tell them to run there, but I can't be bothered. And then they're going to get eventually to the FOB. Once the guys actually get to the FOB, okay, then what I can do is for the human players in the mission, what we could do is put down a kind of respawn point. Okay, so I could put down players, blue 4. There we go, new infantry respawn point. So now they're going to have a respawn if they die, and they'll be able to select that on the map. That prevents us from having to do the continual ferrying of players back and forth. And of course, I'd have to provide some kind of short distance vehicle, so we could have like some, unarmed hunters, or what's the other ones? I always forget the name. Prowlers, that's the one. Get some prowlers in the mix, have something like this, so that the guys can kind of drive themselves back to the action. But again, that's not going to be suitable for every mission. Okay, this is just another possibility of things that we can throw into the mix to kind of give the guys a little break in terms of being able to kind of get back into the action a little more quickly. But again, that's always going to be tempered by my choices in terms of respawn. So, do the guys get, they get one revive from medics out in the field, and then they have to respawn back at base. If they respawn back at base, do they have to wait for like 2 or 3 people so that they kind of come back in together as a reinforcement force? That's a rule that I've been experimenting with at some points. But yeah, so basically that's how the FOB stuff would work. Now the other idea was that in doing these kind of things, we would actually kind of create like checkpoints. So let's say that we were doing some kind of extended patrol mission or some kind of peacekeeping thing. So if we look on the map here, we've got, here we are at Ferres, and then we've got Solicano and Panagea. Okay, so maybe they have to do some kind of patrol mission where they're working between this area, and there's constant threats coming at them from different angles, and the enemy are trying to take these towns or something, and they have to patrol between them. Well, maybe there's like some markers up here. So for example, look, there's a little outpost up here, so maybe this is classified as a checkpoint. Maybe it's a neutral outpost, but perhaps there's some enemy around here or something. If the guys come up to here, right, and they clear that out, then hey, maybe this becomes like a checkpoint, all right, and then they get to put down another respawn, so they can come down in another location. Again, this is all going to be fitted around specific missions and so on, but I think that would be like another interesting aspect to throw in the mix. And the way it could work also would be something along the lines of if you had a very extended patrol mission, okay? So let's say we started out like at our standard base down here, and then we had to go up through the main road, past the towns, and maybe like the whole patrol ends up here at Pyrgos or something, so they have to work all the way through up and around. Maybe it's even further. Maybe you have to go right up to the airbase or something, you know. So a long patrol mission. But a long patrol mission, as we saw the other evening when we were doing the river mission, it took like 5 hours. It's a long time, and some people don't want to be playing for that amount of time. So we could say, well, look, we estimate the mission is going to take us like 4 hours or something like this. Well, halfway through, I'm going to put down a checkpoint base or something. That checkpoint base will be like a position where, again, the guys can respawn. Maybe they can rearm, grab new equipment, and so on, so that, you know, they don't have to kind of do ferrying backwards and forwards. I mean, that's another issue that's been coming up with some of the extended missions, is the guys running low on ammo. Now, of course, the helicopters can ferry ammo back in, and so on. We can do this, but I like the idea of them having a known, safe NATO checkpoint somewhere where they can go to that position, they can get more ammunition, they can maybe get more transport if they need to, and so on. So those are some of the ideas that we've been banding around. I also want to talk very, very quickly just about kind of mortar usage and artillery usage. So mortar usage is something which is, always been a part of the missions, and with mortars, as I've explained many times, the mortars more often than not are designed to create atmosphere, or sort of instill fear into the guys on the ground. But again, it's good to mix that up, so you can always change that up for tanks, other vehicles, maybe a passing airstrike from an orca or something like this. But when it comes to mortars, again, some of the guys in the missions are starting to get kind of almost post-traumatic stress disorder from the constant usage of them. But I thought, we'd seen this in the videos the other day, in the streams the other day when we were working with them, so I just thought I'd demonstrate a little bit of kind of step-by-step my concept when it comes to mortars and how I tend to use them. So let's just go to fire support. Now, I'm not actually going to place down mortars. Oh, I suppose I could actually, couldn't I? If we do them nearby. So let's just put down a couple of CSAT mortars here. I'll just put one guy actually. Okay, so let's do this. So we've got our mortar guy here. And then we've got our other guys over here. So let's just say that these guys are pushing into the town on this ridge line. Maybe there's some CSAT down here in the town, okay? So let's say the CSAT down in the town are reporting in on this position. So the first thing I'm going to do is create an artillery target. Now, where am I going to put that? Right on them? Nope. I generally don't do that. The way that I will work this more often than not is that I will position this a little way away. Now again, sometimes this can be difficult, because if these guys are moving around, okay, they're moving around to different places. If I position a target like here, okay, so kind of near to them, let's go sort of like here by these bushes, and then they move around, there's a potential that they might go near to that and then actually take some fire. So I'm going to fire a 1 round out ranging shot. Off he goes. And the guys here will be shooting into the town, bang, 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 bang. And then we're waiting for that artillery round marker to come in, which it will very shortly. And then once this round comes in, the guys that are in the town engaging this team would basically correct that position. Right, here we are. Round lands, and the guys are like, holy crap, mortars coming in. Now at this point I would move that position slightly further towards them, like here. And it's not playing ball. So we put another position down here. I don't know why that wouldn't allow me to move that there, but never mind. So I put this, I would basically move that marker across to here. And then these guys theoretically at this point should be moving, but I'd go back over here and we would fire again. Now this time I might put 2 or 3 rounds down, because it's kind of like a moving up. It's like a... We've already fired once, so we're going to kind of move it again. Now, if these guys have got anything about them whatsoever, they will have realised at this point they need to move, and so we'll tell them, hey, you need to get out of there. Off they go. So again, any human players should be freaking out at that point and thinking, holy crap, there's mortar artillery coming down, we need to get a move on. And they're going to move out there. There we are. Okay, now again, if the guys in the town at this point have broken contact, they may cause ceasefire on that. But if they haven't, then again, I don't know what is going on with this thing, man. It's being a pain in the ass. But yeah, they may then sort of follow that up or continue to fire or whatever. But the team down here, I mean, again, providing they're out of line of sight, they could reposition themselves however they want to. They could come down here and go to this other compound. They could move wherever they need to. But again, that's what the mortars are generally for. Now, another thing that the mortars can be used for is, let's say that there was... actually, let's just put some more CSAT in. Put some more NATO and CSAT in, actually. So let's just say that we have got a NATO team right here, and these guys right here as well. And then let's say that over here we've got like this is like a mini CSAT base over here, let's say. Okay, so I'm going to tell all these guys to go over here. So these guys are going to move up here and engage. Let's help them out a little bit. And then the NATO team are going to move into this area. So if it's a compound or something that they're supposed to search in a mission or whatever, they're going to come into this compound. Now, say that, for example, there is another CSAT group in the area that have cleared this out. Maybe there's another group who are just in the vicinity. Maybe there's a group kind of over here, you don't know where they may be, maybe they're over here. You know, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter. They could be anywhere. They could be over at this little compound here, and they've observed the fact that these guys have just had this firefight. Maybe they didn't actually want to get engaged themselves or whatever. So then, again, we can tell that artillery, which, oh look, now I can move it. Like, how come I couldn't move it before? It's all working fine now. Okay, so I can move this guy. So again, maybe we put like another marker sort of here on the road or something, yeah? Put another range shot. That one goes out. Now, when that lands, obviously the guys will start to move. But the point that I will do when it comes to mortars is, even if the guys are clearly moving away, I'll continue to mortar into that position, into that area, because it's about kind of creating atmosphere and making them feel like they're under pressure, and just creating a kind of you know, cinematic feel, so that they are kind of having a good engagement. They feel like they're under pressure. They feel like the enemy are continuing to engage. Okay, there we go. So that round comes in, and it comes in pretty accurately on there because there's not a great distance between the mortar and the target. At this point, the guys are like, holy crap, we need to get out of here. So we're going to tell them to head out into town here, and they should be trying to get away from here as quickly as possible. They haven't taken any fire, so I should be able to change them up to safe and tell them to get a bit of a move on. Or at least aware anyway, so they can try to get out of here as quick as possible. Yeah, and they are moving out. So they're kind of moving out. But then what we would do is we would just move this artillery marker, and then we'd put in like a full spread or something into this area. So let's just do 5, fire. Off he goes. So he's firing those away. These guys now, at this point in time, the AI are not doing a fantastic job of this, but oh no, they're kind of starting to move. I don't know why they still feel like they're under combat, because they haven't actually had any, I suppose because they're having mortars fired at them, that would make sense. Anyway, it doesn't matter, they've cleared out of the area, and so the point is that once the human players have moved away from our compound, there we go, the mortars are coming in. And that kind of helps add to the feeling of being in this kind of combat situation, because even when they've moved away, it kind of gives them this feeling of like, oh look, they're definitely mortaring that position still. So it's kind of like, you know, that target was marked, the enemy wanted to make sure it's clear, they're going to continue to, you know, create fire missions on these things. And so yeah, those are the general kind of principles. Now the only other last one is of course the predesignated target. So the predesignated target is that in missions where we're doing kind of pre-established bases and things like this, if there is a set-up mortar or artillery unit within a compound, so let's maybe take our little guy and move him to this set compound. Once they're in these set compounds, they're going to look around and try to find points of interest or ridge lines or high defensive positions, different things like this. And then what they're going to do is we're going to put different markers down. So did I just delete that? Yep. So we're going to put like artillery targets. So I'll search around and try to find good pre-designated positions which could be a threat to the target that I'm trying to protect or whatever. Okay. So again, it doesn't look like very much, but this little outcrop of rock here sounds like our Blue 4 friends have found the yep, CSAT guys, they're having a little firefight. But again, so basically what you'll do is go around and you'll find points of interest. So just looking around, and this is probably a very poor choice of area because it's quite open and barren. But again, you know, maybe like this little compound, there may be some kind of engagement which happens here. So maybe we just put like a marker, I don't know, just sort of here on these sheds or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Again, you know, there could be patrols of our guys going around, like CSAT going around, so again, maybe we designate this group of buildings here or something. So that then later, if this NATO force, who are sort of splitting up very, very heavily, if this NATO force end up kind of coming around a compound or something along these lines, and it's a pre-designated target, let's say that they end up kind of coming up against an assault squad or something along these lines. Now, that assault squad is going to see them, and then potentially it will retreat away or whatever. Now, there's two things to consider here. One new principle that we came up with. One is that, look, even if it's next to like a pre-designated target, because there are friendly forces there, like CSAT forces, they're not going to mortar towards that unless these guys are clear of that area. So what I need to do is I need to try and get my guys to disengage from the human players, get away there. The chances of that happening are pretty slim, but they need to be away from this position by a good, like, at least 100, 200 or even 300 meters. So there needs to be a sort of good radius before they're clear, which is why I've kind of given them that space if they could get back to there. I mean, let's say for argument's sake that they were able to get away from there, well then we would fire. If not, well, they'd have to hold. They'd be on a hold fire. Maybe the mortar teams are requesting and saying, like, you know, can we fire, be like, no, hold, you know. So there's things like that happening. Another possibility though, of course, is just that, like, let's say our squad is in the base, and let's say that they're in the base and they have eyes on the targets. So this guy up here, he could obviously just shout down to the mortar guy and say, over here, like, there we go. We can just say, hey, enemy sighted at position alpha or whatever, okay? So he shouts down to the mortar operator over there, and he literally is shouting, and then I can look up here which target that is. So I can look at its target delta, okay, and then see they're already starting to engage and fire across. So then we can put target delta, okay, so not nearest, delta 5 rounds fire. And because it's a pre-designated target, what that means is that they've pre-ranged the position. They know exactly the range for the mortar operators, and they don't have to spend time ranging. And if they want to adjust the fire position, like if they, there we are, let's see, it comes in 1, 2. But you see it's pretty on point. It's spreading a little bit around the target, but not much. You see we've managed to take out a good amount of that infantry there. But again, if they're still taking fire, which they are, we could just correct that position slightly, just move it across. And then we could fire again, because again it's sort of pre-ranged, so they can just ever so slightly adjust to the east or the west or whatever they need to do. And you can hear that mortar firing off in the distance. And look, this is exactly what happens in the actual missions. There you go, look. The guys move into the target. That's exactly what happens in the real life ZEUS missions, where, you know, that was a perfect example. The mortars are already in the air, and then the guys start moving towards where I have laid a target, obviously not knowing that that's roughly where they're going to come down. And then, of course, when the guys are moving into those mortars, they feel like, holy shit, you know, we took out mortar firing. So there we go. That's a kind of brief breakdown, guys, of where we are and some of the changes we want to make. So we're looking at kind of giving difficulty options to the guys doing the missions. We're looking at creating FOBs in terms of respawn points to assist in getting back into the action more effectively, and, you know, perhaps kind of keeping engagement for some of the missions a little bit higher. And then, of course, we've got the checkpoint respawns for longer missions. And then, of course, just giving you my little breakdown there about mortars. So, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any thoughts and ideas about Arma always feel free to put them down. Any for the Arma ZEUS missions, put them into the comments, and I'll see you next time for some more Arma ZEUS. Schedule wise, guys, remember that Mondays is always the modded Arma missions. You can come check that out on my live stream, and also Friday is the vanilla Arma missions for public, and you can get in on those by checking out the trailers that I run on Fridays. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.